Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Night Owl, a show that we do twice a week where we discuss all the latest in pop culture and gaming news, TV and movie reviews. And as usual, I have my co host with me, Professor R2. How's it going, Professor?
Doing all right. Feel like I'm coming down with a little something. Let's hope it doesn't go any further than that. But
Oh, no. Is this the same thing you were coming down with last week?
no. Just feeling a little tired, a little rough. My son's been feeling really sick this week too. So I don't know. Maybe
Uh,
just something going around.
yeah, no, there could be something going around. The seasons are changing.
Yeah, that does it too.
I just came back. I was at a snooty cocktail party.
Who are you rubbing elbows with this evening?
Uh, there were some people there, a few older musicians,
Okay.
something like that. But it was interesting, and they had whiskey, which was like kind of like on the house,
Oh well, yeah.
like as much as I want, which is that's never a good thing. And then in addition to that, they kept what's that beef? Wagyu beef. You know what I'm talking
Wagyu?
about?
Yeah, Wagyu beef. Yep.
Wagyu beef. So apparently they had like a never-ending supply of these little sliders with Wagyu beef and and things inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a sucker for those. So if you just keep giving me whiskey and Wagyu sliders, that's really all I need. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would choose.
Yep.
There were other hors d'oeuvres that they were trying to like sell, like not sell, but I mean like unload. They're like, "Do you want a cracker with like a cheese imported from like?" I'm like, "No,
Canapes my
the
ass.
sliders. That's all I need. I need the sliders and the whiskey," and that's what was going on. And I barely managed to get out of there and get here in time. I'm really surprised. It was like really at the last minute. I was almost going to call you and just say, "Hey, you feel like giving a monologue?"
Oh boy, jeez.
But no, it ended up working out, and I got home, and I'm so happy that I did, and that
Yeah,
we're doing our show. And not happy
here
to hear
we
you're not feeling
are.
that great, but you still sound great. So that's
Yeah, no, I'm all right. I'm all right. It's just it just kind of takes the energy out of your day. You just kind of not feeling it, but I'm doing all right. I'm a night owl anyway, so that's why I'm here.
I understand.
Yeah.
And then, some people were, even I see here in the chat laughing about the thumbnail that the thumbnail has a person on it that maybe
Is
not
it
everybody likes or doesn't
is,
do like or don't like. But
is
I
it
actually,
is it inappropriate laughter that's used to fill time instead of answering questions? Is that kind of laughter?
I guess so. That's what I just did. But no, I'll tell you why I put it in there. The thing is that this really isn't the most political of streams, but I will say that I like it when there's elections, when there's sort of a fair balance. People are saying, "Oh, if there's a candidate you like, you should vote for him," and I agree with whoever it is. I think it was Walter that said here, Walter Tomaszowski. I've said this to the anti-Trump brigade, and I'll say it to the anti-Harris brigade: if you don't like a candidate, don't vote for that candidate. Why do people tie themselves in knots about it? And I'll tell you why I'm even mentioning it. It's not that this stream, the point of it is to tell somebody who they should vote for and who they shouldn't vote for. Personally, and I've said it many times, I don't love politicians. There's only so much I get excited about politics or politicians. But I will say this: if there's an election, and these are things that do interest me, I think that there should be a really balanced, as neutral as they can, show a couple of different candidates, show them as neutral as you can be. I understand that some networks maybe they lean more one political direction than another, but at least try to pretend that you're a bit neutral. And what I've been seeing, especially over the past few weeks leading up into this election, I don't remember ever, maybe in my lifetime, seeing such a skewed coverage for a candidate, for
Yeah.
one candidate versus another one, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. At one point, it was sort of the journalistic norm that you needed to at least attempt. I mean, I know that everybody has bias, right? Everybody has their own opinions on things, but the idea was that as a journalist, you were supposed to be as objective as possible. You were supposed to be reaching for that attempt to try and be objective. So when you looked at a candidate, you looked at their policies, you looked at what they had to say, and you were trying to objectively analyze what they had to say so that you could report on that objectively. When you were talking about something else happening in society, something happening somewhere else in the world, you were going to attempt to report on that objectively, and that has been essentially just completely lost to the wind. We of course now have whole networks that have ideological bents. I'm as frustrated by that from a Fox News as I am from an MSNBC, right? That they feel like they potentially have to boost candidates in the way that they cover certain things. And I it's just we're not in that age anymore. Now it's almost an age where these journalists and the networks are like bought into a particular ideology. They're bought into a particular candidate. They have to support them. In fact, a lot of these newsrooms now will even allow the people who are in the newsrooms to give money to candidates.
Yeah, I mean,
And
and also you had a situation, I think it was Google, where on one hand, it turns out that 98% of their employees have donated money to the Democratic Party or something along those lines. I don't know if I remember the exact numbers, but anybody that donates there donates to the Democratic Party. Then later, when you go and you search for stuff about the elections, there's a very clear picture that's painted there when you just Google the candidates. They seemingly try to push very positive things about one candidate versus not such good information about another candidate. And I think that at the end, people just aren't aware of what's going on. They don't really understand that they're going to Google and they're getting something that's not objective.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not going to say that there's no journalists out there anymore that are objective or attempting to reach that goal of being as objective as possible, but it does seem to be a very, very limited number of journalists now. Everybody has, bought into a particular candidate, they bought into a particular ideology, and they're there to boost that, push that as much as they can. They're not reporting on the news as much anymore as they want to be part of
They want
the
to
reporting.
create the news. It's not only that they
Yeah.
want to be a part of it, they want to be the creators of news that which they then report. And it's funny because there was a movie years ago with Nicole Kidman. I think it's called To Die For or something like that.
Mhm.
At the time when it came out, it almost seemed like a silly movie. But when I think about it today, it actually has a lot more depth to it. Maybe just because of how things developed. Have you seen this movie that I'm talking about?
No, I don't think so.
It's actually, relatively speaking, when I think about it now, I haven't seen this movie in years, and I don't know about the level of it, but I think it has Matt Dillon in it, and I vaguely remember, I think this is the case, that, like, Matt Dillon is maybe a teenager, or he's supposed to be a young man, and Nicole Kidman is a reporter, and she has an affair
Mhm.
with him, and then she kind of causes him to I think maybe murder somebody, and then she has all the scoops about the murder. It's a very kind of out there type of movie.
Mm.
One that I thought was weird when I saw it, and when I tell you about it, I still think it's weird. But I think that the kind of idea that the person is creating the news and then reporting the news that they just created, that kind of reminds me of modern day mainstream media.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that in a lot of cases, it's also that they are no longer sufficiently satisfied with being journalists in that career and then having the fame that comes with being a well-known journalist. They want to be part of the power structure.
Right.
They don't just
A-
wanna report on it, they want to make connections with people and then become part of the power. So, it used to be journalists would fight the power, right?
right.
They would be there to speak truth to power, but now they just want to be part of that power structure. They want to become part of that world, and as you said, I mean, part of it is making the news. So, it is very frustrating.
It definitely is, and it's been bothering me more and more because I still remember growing up that there were times that there were actually elections that seemed a bit more balanced or y- not as mean-spirited towards one candidate. You had a
Oh,
few
certainly.
candidates, you could vote for somebody, but if I had to say where I think it all changed, I think that the first change we saw is probably when Barack Obama ran for the first time. And the reason why I think we saw a change beyond the landscape becoming more social media orientated and more of the internet and things like that, but also because, the establishment, the media, Hollywood, they really wanted this candidate to win because it would have reflected positively on them in terms of virtue signaling. Uh, it's not to say, I mean, he's a well spoken guy. He certainly ran an impressive campaign. I'm not saying that he didn't, but I'm saying that they were all in on him. You
Mhm.
would not hear anybody say one negative word about the guy. And
Yeah,
also, you could say, well, that was a campaign and maybe he was the darling of the campaign. I'd say, okay. But then he was 4 years in office. And it seems like during those 4 years, everybody was also very cautious not to say something bad about him, even if there was something bad happening, or even if he was just handling something okay or not so great. Uh, Again, I recognize that the guy gave great speeches. I mean, that was his specialty and he was good at it. But I
sure.
think that beyond the speeches, things that were happening weren't always great, but you wouldn't know that based on the media. And then when there was a re-election, again, always in his corner, always presenting him in a negative light. I don't think I've ever heard the media say one negative word about him. Or maybe you have some Fox News or something, but I'm saying generally speaking, the mainstream media, the Hollywood establishment, all those really positive things saying about him the whole time. And they also tried the same thing, in my opinion, with Hillary. Somehow Trump was just sort of like a monkey wrench in their plans. And from the second that he got elected, it was the other way around. I don't think I've seen a president that people, that the media and the establishment and Hollywood and all those got together to complain about so much day and night the way they did with him. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I love either politician or care that much. It's just I don't like it when the playing field isn't leveled.
Yeah. When you feel like they've got the finger on the scales, right?
Right,
And that they're doing what they can to try and manipulate the news rather than just report on it. And they pick and choose, uh for instance, we have, in recently we had the interview with Kamala Harris, right, with 60 Minutes, where they had part of it they published where she sort of fumbled for an answer, and
right.
you saw this, that they sort of showed this as a preview, but then in the final interview there they edited all of that out,
Right.
right?
They did something worse. They asked her a different question at a different point in the interview
Yes,
and they pasted. This is something that when I make price of reason videos, I don't feel comfortable, manipulating that
sure.
much. And they just like pasted an answer from a different place onto a different question just so that she looks good. I mean, the thing is that until that moment when I heard that Trump didn't want to be on 60 Minutes, I thought, well, maybe he should be on 60 Minutes. She's going there, maybe he's being a little bit, a bit petty with them or something. But after I saw that, I said, you know what? Can't blame him. Can't blame him. Anywhere he goes, that's pretty much what you expect at this point. And not to mention that when JD Vance did that thing, that debate, you can like policies, not like policies. You can like that guy, not like that guy. None of this matters to me. He was making a point about the immigrants coming in through the border, and this isn't really a one party thing. I think that anybody in a lot of these states acknowledges, and I've heard a lot of Democrat even officials in different states that have these migrants coming in that have acknowledged it and have said that it's an issue. Meaning, this isn't some kind of taboo thing that he mentioned. He mentioned something that was very clearly happening, and there's really no way around it. And these two ladies from CBS just sit there and start quote unquote fact checking him and telling him, no, like you're wrong, you're this and you're that. And then like he stepped in and started like giving them the facts and actual really explaining it to them in a way that really embarrassing them. And while he was embarrassing them, they pulled his microphone. So
Yeah.
this isn't also it's not a political thing. This is something that I've heard Democrat leaders in places acknowledge that this is happening. So why? Because he's a Republican and he said it, so he needs his microphone canceled.
Yeah, it seemed blatant, right? It Yeah, it's so very frustrating. Uh, I think a lot of people, all they're really asking for in life, all they're really asking for in their job, in whatever wherever they are in their lives, they just want a fair shake, right? They just want a level playing field, and they're seeing around them how that's not possible anymore, right? Especially when it comes to men. I think you have a lot of men who are very disenchanted, not just with politics, but with a lot of, the social structure that we have around us, with, lots of different politicians, with businesses, with all sorts of different policies that we have. They're very disenchanted. They feel like they've been left behind, like they have an uphill battle. Even men of color, right, are saying, "What is happening?" Right? It's so confusing. I feel like it's politics, but it's so many other things as well. And
Right, and
the reporting, the news, it's just everything, right? It feels so one-sided in so many different ways.
and part of the thing is, we report on entertainment all the time and how it's become so political and how people are also there trying to tip the scale in some direction. All these activists have infiltrated all these studios and they just want to spread these kind of, take any existing property IP that people enjoyed, any kind of show that people liked, and they just want to shove all of these agendas and all this propaganda into
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And it's usually very one-sided. So I kind of feel like copy paste that attitude, and it's with this election coverage too. Now, I'm not telling people who they should vote for, and again, I've said it myself. It's not that I get so excited over politics, but if there's one thing that I do get excited about, it's when I see like a leveled playing field. That I like. When I see just that, even this whole week now, Kamala, everywhere she goes, she's going to Stephen Colbert, who he is the host of the Late Show, which is basically the legacy of David Letterman, who is, considered an icon in late night entertainment. David Letterman used to be kind of a middle of the road guy, create this kind of late night humor that was a good escapism for everybody. Had a tough
Mhm.
day, could watch David Letterman. Stephen Colbert takes it over. Initially, his ratings weren't doing so well. And then, he didn't know what to do. So he just sat around and started saying how much he hates Trump. And I guess like there was an uptick in ratings. Uptick is a relative thing. These late night
Mhm.
shows are nothing like they used to be in the past, ratings wise. But I guess he got a little more ratings, and since then, all he does is sit around and cry about Trump. Trump's been there. Trump's been gone. You know, the Late Show is no longer the Late Show. It's not. It's no longer the legacy of David Letterman. It's just a complete TDS crying about Trump show. And then at the end, he now has Kamala there as a guest where she goes to these places where they're all like kissing her ass and giving her like
Mhm.
the softest of softball questions. And she also go to the View. I don't know where she's going, like to anywhere that'll be friendly towards her and say how great she is. Um, it's just strange to me that all these kind of mainstream programs and mainstream channels have all decided how great she is and how wonderful and everything. They don't even ask her any real questions. I don't think that this is healthy for anybody. I mean, bring all the candidates on and ask them whatever questions you want. Have a real, have a real election where people are really
Yeah.
talking about the issues. I don't feel like we're seeing that at all, not from the mainstream.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I am fascinated to hear that, yeah, you may have heard earlier today that, uh, Harris is going to sit down for an interview with Bret Baier on Fox News. W Wow. That's gonna be interesting, right?
I
Because
mean,
that is not gonna be friendly territory.
I heard that she wants to have a sit down with Joe Rogan. I I sincerely hope for Joe Rogan. Either he's interviewing both candidates or not interviewing any of them. I think he should.
Yeah.
I don't know what benefit he would have from from interviewing Kamala. People say, well, he's a straight shooter. He's going to ask her the real questions. But you know what? I don't know. Either he's a very influential podcaster. I think that either he has both of them on, or maybe none of them. I tend to think that once she'll be there, he probably won't, ask her the tough questions.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the truth is I don't think he would be in any way soft on her. And if it was actually like her in the room with him having an interview that talking, that would be fascinating because I think I think
I
the
mean, I
biggest
am curious. I am
yeah
curious. If
yeah
he's really going to do the real thing where he's, straightforward, I would be interested.
yeah
But if it's
yeah
a situation that there's a bunch of terms and condition agreed to in advance and that he has to like bow down, I don't think he should do it.
yeah. Oh, I honestly don't think he would agree to that. If if they were saying nope, you're only allowed these questions and you're only allowed to do it this way. Because the thing is that all of these uh, she's really been going on a tour lately talking to a lot of people because she needs to get out there. She can't just hide because her approval ratings are falling. Her chances of winning the election are falling, and there's been a number of different surveys, various different uh, outlets, including the sites where you can bet, on who's going to win, that have been
Right.
showing.
The betting sites for a minute had her in the lead. And now recently, probably in the past week, there's been sort of a switch where
Yeah,
the odds are starting to be better for Trump.
yeah.
Uh,
In the last 3 to 5 days, they've actually started to see some pretty significant changes in the types of surveys that they're getting back, the different polling that they're getting and so on. And she's slipping considerably. So she's out there doing these interviews, getting out there and talking to people. But the thing is, it's not really working for her. I think it's showing even more how inauthentic she is. That
let me,
that is that is the number one thing that I get from her, is how inauthentic she is. She is not who she presents herself to be. She's basically an actress. She's up there reading lines.
well, this
And
is
it's really frustrating. It's really bothering to me that that people are buying that, right? I don't
th-
know. It's frustrating.
this is what Polymarket is a place that really is heavy into these kind of bets
Yes.
on the presidential election. So they think that in the presidential election, the winner, they're saying Donald Trump 58%, Kamala 42%. This is very different than what it was just a week ago.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, I wouldn't put, no pun intended, all my chips on this, but it is interesting how this thing is flipped. And it seems like their campaign is a little more stressed. Like when Obama popped up and said that he's worried that, quote unquote, he said this, not me, the brothers aren't going to vote for Kamala, or I don't know what. That kind of sounded like he was worried. But
Don't worry. They've got Tim out there reaching out to the black vote. Tim
uh,
Waltz is out there reaching out to men and the black vote. So
I
they've
think he
got that
tried to do
covered.
something where he goes hunting, and then I
Oh
read
my
that people that go
god, that
hunting
was
didn't
embarrassing.
appreciate his hunting. Uh,
Oh, that was embarrassing. Um,
right. So I guess
I am not a hunter. Okay, I am not. I've been with hunters. It's not something that I do frequently. I thoroughly support anyone who enjoys that as a pastime. But it's just not something I've ever really enjoyed. But I've been with hunters, and I've gone out trap shooting and stuff like that. And to watch him fumbling with that shotgun, trying to put the shells in, I had to wonder if he'd ever even held that gun before in his life.
I'm
It
not
was
100% sure.
it was just amazing. Like, either you're disabled in some way, or you've never held that gun before. Because if this is actually your weapon and you've actually gone hunting with it before, how can you be that inept with that
It
weapon?
did look strange from
Stunning.
the little video that I saw of it. It looked strange, but then again, my expertise in hunting is that I used to play duck hunt
Well, there you go. Yeah.
on the Nintendo. That's where my expertise is at. And I some from time to time I go to LL Bean.
And get you a nice orange vest while you're there. Then you're good.
I mean, I'm sure that Waltz can buy clothes at LL Bean if he wants to look like a hunter. That I'm
Sure.
sure they have. Uh, the popular vote, according to these same bets, is Kamala Harris. They think 66% say that she's going to get the popular vote, whereas they think that Trump's going to win the election. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and this has tended to happen several times now. People get really upset about this. Oh, the popular your vote wins goes one way, and the electoral college goes the other. That guess what? When you have a absurdly populated state like California or New York, where the vast majority of those people tend to live in the inner cities and have very similar views, very very insulated views, particularly. Then yeah, you're gonna end up with these massive, massive numbers of votes going in certain directions, but the electoral college is going to go differently. And you know what? I fully support that. There's a reason for the electoral college. We are not a pure democracy. If we were, this country would have been over a long time ago. Uh, we're a representative democracy. We elect representatives. Those representatives then go forward to, as electors, they go out and then uh, pick the presidential candidate they were brought to as to be electors. So there's a reason for that. We don't want to make it so that California and New York and two other states by themselves would be able to elect federal offices like the president, and then every other state's votes wouldn't matter, right? We have to stay in touch with those other parts of the country. We have to stay in touch with those less populous states. Guess what's in those less populous states? All of your food, all of it.
That's true.
Uh, Corn and wheat, cattle, chicken, all that is coming from those states there in the middle of the country that have much lower population. A lot of that land is taken up for crops. It's taken up for ranches, taken up for other things. And so you yes, as Murr Rockstra says, a pure democracy is three wolves and a sheep deciding what's for lunch, right? That, that's absolutely the case, right? So yeah, this happens, and it's going to continue to happen, where the popular vote's going to swing one way, and the electoral college and the actual winner of the election is going to swing the other way. And that's the way the system was set up. And there's a reason that it is designed the way that it is. And so I think, frankly, it's scary to hear people like Tim Walz talking about trying to get rid of the electoral college. It's disturbing. So
I'll tell you what the thing with the electoral college. After Hillary lost, I kept hearing people from that side say, "Well, she did win the popular vote," and I mean, when people said that to me, I just said, "So what? That's not the one you need in order to win the election. So what does it even matter?" No, but you won the popular. That's also Al Gore. Al Gore. It started with him actually. That they started. Oh, he won the popular vote.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
really honestly, that's where a lot of I feel like that's where a lot of this, leaning, as far as different journalists are concerned, like more publicly advocating for certain candidates, and then the less congenial, uh, you know, politicians and stuff where people are more standoffish and being nasty to other people on the other side of the aisle. I think a lot of that really started with that election, with Bush winning over Gore and everything that happened in Florida, which, by the way, yes, recounted multiple different times by multiple different groups. Bush did win Florida in the vote, so all of your conspiracy theories are silly. But
I will say that it was relatively convenient. I mean, the optics of it that his brother was the governor of Florida. I'm not saying that something happened there. I'm just saying that it was a strange turn of events.
sure, it definitely was. It was awkward. It was very strange, and I think again damaging to the country in a lot of ways. Having all of the these court proceedings and all of that stuff, fighting over which votes get counted and all of this stuff. It was
The
nasty.
hanging chads, but
Yes, the hanging chads.
even though that hanging chad thing was dumb compared to what happened later, it's like small potatoes.
Well, now used to be we would have elections processed and counted within the evening. We would know who won by the next morning at the latest. Now we have all of these new voting machines and everything. They're supposed to make it faster and easier to tabulate all these votes and everything. And now you've got states out there, and Arizona was one. I think there were a few others that said, "Oh, we're probably not going to be done counting the vote until sometime like 2 days later." What?
It is weird. I don't like
Like,
that.
that's very very strange. And quite honestly, it totally different tangent here, but uh, that there is any state that is allowed to collect votes without a paper ballot, I find terrifying. There should be a paper ballot in every single state. It's not hard. I've always voted, in different states I've lived in, always voted on a paper ballot or had some sort of paper record or something that you use. You just have your little sheet, you mark the little thing, and then you run it through the scanner. They get their quick count of that vote that they can send in at the end of the day, but there's also a paper record they can go back to if something breaks down in the machinery. Terrifying to me that there's states that are using fully digital machines and all they have is a basically an Excel spreadsheet at the end of the day,
Yeah,
uh,
and that's
and,
really
and
a
no paper record to go back to.
and that's really a problem, that whole like, with the technology becoming so advanced, supposedly, that we rely so much on these different technologies, it also kind of leaves things vulnerable. I don't know. I can't tell you what happened in the previous election. I know that there's different people that believe different things. I wasn't there and I don't really know. But I
Mhm.
will say that generally speaking, I would prefer that there would be, paper ballots, like you said. I would prefer that people have to vote in person. They have to come there, show
Yeah,
ID, vote in person.
yeah,
Somehow these things have become controversial. You say, "Oh, somebody should show up with an ID and vote in person." Oh no, he doesn't need
yeah,
an ID. They just send it in the mail or whatever it is. Why?
yeah,
I don't think that's a good idea. I think that if everything is on the up and up, this shouldn't be a one party type of issue or one party or another. Everybody should want this. If we want fair elections, we should just have paper and people showing ID. Anything else to me is suspicious.
yeah. It's weird, right? It's disturbing that people keep pushing for these things that seem far less secure. And yes, I do understand the arguments. Oh, if you require ID, such and such person might not be able to vote, whatever. I got to be honest with you. I don't find any of those arguments persuasive. You are required to have an ID for virtually everything. You want to open a bank account, ID. You want to buy
Buy
some spray paint,
cigarettes, yeah. Buy beer, buy cigarettes, whatever it is.
buy
Well,
cough medicine at
cough
the grocery
medicine.
store. You got to show ID. None of those things are guaranteed rights. But if we're going to have elections that we can say without a shadow of a doubt, this was secure, this was safe, this was done correctly, the right votes were counted, wrong, any kind of other issues that may have come up with ballots that those ballots were not counted, whatever. And we can say these are the rules, this is how it is, and you do it. We have voter ID in my state. It's never a problem. Never has been a problem. And there's lots of states that have enacted voter ID laws, counties that have enacted voter ID laws in different states. And I think the point is that we just want to have some way of saying, all right, this person was entitled to vote because they registered and they live where they're supposed to live, and we now have a record of this particular person voting. And so that's all that we're saying is that it's just secures things. It gets rid of that opportunity for someone to cheat, and it shows other people, it shows others that they can be confident in their election having been fair. I think that's the whole point of voter ID, and I fully support states offering free ID to people who don't have driver's licenses or whatever. You register to vote, you check a box that says, I need a free, ID or whatever because I'm not a driver, I don't have a driver's license, whatever, and then the state provides that if you request it, right? it's not going to, considering how much states and the federal government spend on so many other things every year, that's going to be, pennies compared to some of the other things that they spend it on.
We
So,
have a comment here from
yeah.
Superior Nav. Price of Reason Live. Did you guys watch the movie where the election was 50-50 and the final vote came down to one guy that decides the winner? Did you? I don't remember that movie. Did you see it?
It sounds really familiar.
I
Um,
remember that there was once one that I think Gene Hackman and was it Ray Romano or something like that? They were running for who's the council, the governor of some small town. Uh,
Gene Hackman.
Gene
I think
Hackman.
I think the movie that they're talking about is
Maybe Tim
Swing.
Allen. Is it Tim Allen or Ray Romano? Maybe it's Tim Allen. Gene Hackman, who's like a great actor,
Yeah.
against somebody unlikely. Do you remember who that was?
Oh, no.
Come on, this is a movie. This is a real movie. The one that Gene Hackman.
Uh, an election movie?
I think that like a former president moves into some crappy like small town
Oh,
and he wants to become the president of that town. Not the president, the governor. And
yeah.
he's running against just some schmo that wants to run. I don't
Oh,
know.
no, no, yeah, I think I think it was Ray Romano that was in that.
Welcome to Mooseport. So yeah, my
That's
original
it.
instinct was right,
Yeah.
Ray Romano.
Yeah, it was
I
Ray Romano.
remember now because Ray Romano is really annoying. So it was just like
Yeah.
I
I don't
understand.
mind Ray Romano so much, but
I mean, I don't know. It's not.
yeah.
It's. I don't hate him, but it's like in a movie with Gene Hackman, I was rooting for Gene Hackman. Like Gene Hackman was supposed to be the douchey guy that you're not rooting for, but because he's against Ray Romano, I just wanted Gene Hackman to win.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I was thinking I was like, "I think I've seen this single vote movie," and someone was saying here, yeah, it's a Kevin Costner film. It was called Swing Vote. It came out in 2008. It's about this guy who's just this Joe Blow. He's a schmo, lives in a trailer, and the presidential election comes down to one vote, and it's his vote, whatever. Yeah.
It sounds like a weird movie.
It was, yeah, I don't remember much of it. I don't remember it making much of an impression on me, but I'm pretty certain that I did see this. It was a 2008 release, and I was Kevin Costner and Kelsey Grammer, Dennis Hopper, Stanley Tucci. Like, it's got a bunch of big names in it. So
You know, Kevin Costner has made some strange movies in his
yes.
career. I mean, some of them are kind of good. Some of them are even somewhat iconic. I like him in The Untouchables, but once in a while he has kind of strange ones, and he's had a few stinkers for sure. I don't know that the one with the swing vote is a stinker, but it certainly doesn't sound very promising. It
Yeah,
sounds like a
I remember something of it because, like, basically, like, uh everyone's fighting over trying to get his vote, and then you end up with the politicians on both sides are flip-flopping on issues to try and get him to come over to his side, and
oh no, the dead
yeah.
man says Price, you kind of sound like Ray Romano. Oh no, that's the worst. I apologize to the dead man. I hope that's not the case. Because he has this, oh yeah, I want to go, yeah. Like I don't sound like that, right? He has more of a, he kind of
A
goes
little more nasally. Yeah.
more like a New Yorker vibe, like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know why we're going to this place. Yeah, like I don't sound like that. I
Well,
hopefully mine is more a more
yeah.
interesting voice than
Yeah.
his. He's pretty much never been good, I think, in anything. I'm trying to think if I've seen him in anything that I didn't think he was annoying.
Well, I guess
Not that his character
I
was
never
annoying, that
found
he
him
was annoying.
offensive, I suppose.
What'd
But
you
I
say?
no, he's not my favorite. He's not my favorite.
I mean, he had that show, Everybody Loves Raymond, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And people used to tell me, "Whoa, it's like Seinfeld. You should watch it." It's not like Seinfeld. Seinfeld was funny. That one is like iconic and sort of stands until today as this kind of achievement in comedy. Everybody Loves Raymond. Nobody remembers that. I mean, even in syndication, I see Seinfeld a lot more. Everybody Loves Raymond. That's not something that I see in heavy rotation. Maybe somebody watches it, but I don't think that it's as heavy in rotation.
No, no, I don't think I've really seen it in reruns, but then I also don't have cable, so I don't
No,
know
but there
where I
there
would
there
see
were shows that when they
reruns.
came out, people were telling me how great they were, and then over time, it turns out that I was right. Mad About You. People are like, "But Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt." Yes, I thought that they were rather annoying, and today when you flip through the channels at night, without knowing, even if you don't watch cable TV, if I just give you not even cable TV, just regular whatever it is over the air that with that digital antenna, what are the odds that you're going to see Seinfeld versus, let's say, Mad About You or Everybody Loves Raymond at any given moment?
Yeah, who knows?
I can tell you right now, Seinfeld, much more of a chance.
Yeah.
Friends, much more of a
I
chance.
don't know, Seinfeld might cost too much for some of those channels to run as reruns.
Maybe, but I'm telling you that a lot of the ones that actually do run reruns,
Absolutely, yeah,
Seinfeld, Friends, Big Bang Theory, those are ones that I feel like are in heavy rotation. Mad
yeah.
About You, that's not something that I see all
Oh,
day and
no,
all
not
night.
Mad About You, no, that was also classically, like, although the show I thought the show was okay, I was a little too young for it at the time, but I thought the show was okay. That is one of the classic, fumbles on the finale. They completely ruined the show with the finale. There's been a lot of shows that have completely screwed up their finales, but that was one of those that they really blew it.
Uh, exactly. I see people are still talking about this. So
Everybody loves Ray.
Ray Romano sounds like Kermit the Frog. So does that mean that I sound like? Because I don't think I sound like Kermit the
No, you
Frog.
don't sound like Kermit the Frog.
And then the dead man says, "I was going to say it, but I don't disagree." Is that
Yeah,
Tim Hayes? You have too deep of a voice,
yeah.
Price.
Well, I don't know. Say, "I love you, Miss Piggy." Maybe we can determine.
Oh, there is a connection, the rainbow. Oh, Miss Piggy. I think that's what he sounds
Uh,
like, right? That was my best Kermit the
yeah,
Frog impression.
that's Price with some unlimited whiskeys in him right there.
They were free, the whiskeys and the
And the
wagyu,
Wagyu beef, yeah,
the
mhm.
wagyu sliders. That's really
Yeah.
that's what I like, and they just keep like bringing more. Like a guy, thing with like a bow tie comes up, and he has like
Oh, yeah.
the bow tie and the platter thing.
Oh, yeah. Like,
It's
give me
just
some
an
more of
unlimited.
those.
Yeah, and also from time to time they were doing something where it was like instead of the wagyu beef, you had this kind of barbecue chicken type of thing, like a crispy chicken inside also a slider,
Mm,
and occasionally it was like an eggplant slider. I anytime there was a slider, I ate it. I didn't didn't discriminate.
yeah.
Whatever slider was being offered to me, I ate them. But really, the wagyu beef that was the main event.
That's good stuff. That is good stuff. We have a local, rancher, nearby here who grows or raises nothing but, Wagyu, uh, and, even has a little outlet, nearby where you can go and just buy their beef straight from them. You don't have to go through anybody else. It's got pretty great stuff.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say I had chili for dinner, so you're just glad you're not in the same room with me right now.
Well, I actually, it was nice. I'm a big fan of hors d'oeuvres. Sometimes you have something where it's like, well, there'll be a reception at the beginning where there's drinks and hors d'oeuvres, and then there's the main course in the dining room, whatever it is. Usually, whatever the main course is in the dining room, it'll never be better than the hors d'oeuvres and the drinks before the meal.
Yeah.
I could just stay with the hors d'oeuvres and the drinks. I really don't need anything beyond that. It's such a fun way, to just stand around and people are like bringing the trays, and then you're just drinking, and then people are giving you food. It's a setup that I really enjoy. I don't know how other people feel, but it's a setup that I really like.
Oh yeah, and if they're gonna say light hors d'oeuvres, I'm really like, no thanks. Heavy hors d'oeuvres, oh, I'm right there. Bring it on. And that means there's gonna be protein. There's gonna be like real food as part of those hors d'oeuvres. So
Exactly.
I get invited to more than a few fancy receptions with various different business people that are partners with our university, and so yeah, I get to go and experience some of those. Not rubbing elbows with Hollywood and so on, but wealthy business people nonetheless.
Well, I'm certainly. It was definitely an interesting event that I went to, and I'm happy I went to it. But back to what we were talking about was how the mainstream media.
Yeah,
Oh, somebody. We answered the question about the election. Yes. So what I was trying to say was is that I just feel like in this election more than ever, there's certain things that just seem very skewed to me, and I just don't like the way that it's going. I think that there should be candidates. They should just show it to the people, and the people can decide whatever candidate they want to vote for, and that's it. Part of what they're doing with all this kind of picking a side and doing this also adds at the end to the division, to how divided we are, how everybody's at each other's throats over this thing. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be you vote for some candidate, if somebody votes for one guy, some other person may vote for another guy. It wasn't what defined a person. Whoever you voted for didn't define you. You just said somebody said, "Oh, I voted for this guy. I voted for that guy." That would be it.
yeah, yeah, and you could actually have a discussion. You could maybe even have an argument over something, and in the end, you could still shake hands and say, all right, thank we'll move on as friends or whatever. You didn't have to break up friendships over who you were voting for or how you felt about certain issues. You didn't have women trying to encourage other women to leave their husbands because their husbands were not voting the way that they wanted them to. Right? I mean, it's gone to such crazy levels of division. It's hard to even fathom sometimes.
Right, and I see it. I'll be honest. I'll see it usually from the direction of if somebody. I've heard this many times that somebody tells me, "Oh, I found out this person voted for Trump, so I couldn't be their friend anymore. Couldn't talk to them or things like that." And I've told people that have told me that I think that's really really stupid. What, you have a friend for like 20 years, and because you went and voted for some candidate you didn't like, he's not your friend anymore?
Mhm.
Like, it says something negative about you more than anything else.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
something wrong with you if your whole friendship with a person over like 20 years, it lies in the balance because a guy voted for some candidate. Who cares? Sometimes a candidate, honestly, most times politicians, they promise a bunch of stuff. You don't know what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. You hope you'll choose a person that maybe they'll do something that you wanted, you didn't want. To make this the thing, the deciding factor on if you'll be friends with somebody or not, if a person is a good person or not, it didn't used to be that way. And I don't think that our society has improved in any way that this is the thing now. And
Yeah.
just to kind of circle back to the what I was telling you about the media. So on one hand, you have Harris going and being dealt with kids' gloves. What term am I looking for? That they're very nice to her and they're not really asking her tough questions and editing the interviews to make her look good and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's frankly, it's an in-kind donation to her campaign, but yeah, they're treating her with kid gloves. They're being very very soft on how they ask the questions. Obviously, in a lot of these interviews, if you can even call them that, they're more like performances. The questions and everything, how they're going to be asked, which questions they're asking, they're all set up well beforehand. And so they're all cleared well beforehand because Kamala has to prepare. She has to memorize her answers because the one thing she can't be is genuine. She can't actually get out there and tell you what she actually really thinks about stuff. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, and one of the things that I wanted to show you, I don't know. I hope we don't get a copyright thing, but I wanted to show you this video, and I have a reason for showing you this. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see JD Vance getting interviewed by the New York Times?
Uh, I think so. Yeah.
It's a 3-minute clip, and I want to show it to you. Hopefully, I don't know if it's gonna let us see it. It's on Twitter. If there's a thing at the end, I'll just clip it. But hopefully, there won't be an issue. There's a reason why I want to share this with you. Uh, let's see if I can do it. So I'll try to do it. Can you hear the sound?
In the debate, you were asked to clarify if
Yeah.
you believe Trump lost the 2020 election. Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think that Donald Trump and I have both raised a number of issues with the 2020 election, but we're focused on the future. I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020, which is a wide open border, groceries that are unaffordable. And look,
Senator,
Lulu,
yes or no?
okay,
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which independent analysis have said cost Donald Trump millions of votes?
Senator Vance, I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did big technology companies censor a story that independent studies have suggested would have cost Trump millions of votes? I think
Senator
that's the
Vance,
question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020
And I've answered
election?
your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer yours.
I have asked this question repeatedly. It is something that is very important for the American people to know. There is no proof, legal or otherwise, that Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election.
You're repeating a slogan rather than engaging with what I'm saying, which is that when our own technology firms engage in industrial scale censorship, by the way, backed up by the federal government in a way that independent studies suggest affect the votes, I'm worried about Americans who feel like there were problems in 2020. I'm not worried about this slogan that people throw. Well, every court case went this way. I'm talking about something very discrete, a problem of censorship in this country that I do think affected things in 2020, and more importantly, that led to Kamala Harris's governance, which has screwed this country up in a big way.
Senator, would you have certified the election in 2020? Yes or no?
I've said that I would have voted against certification because of the concern that I just raised. I think that when you have technology companies,
The answer is no.
when you have technology companies censoring Americans at a mass scale in a way that, again, independent studies have suggested affect the vote, I think that it's right to protest against that, to criticize that, and that's a totally reasonable thing.
So the answer is no. And the last question, will you support the election results this time and commit to a peaceful transfer of power?
Well, first of all, of course, we commit to a peaceful transfer of power. We are going to have a peaceful transfer of power. I, of course, believe that peaceful transfer of power is going to make Donald Trump the next president of the United States. But if there are problems, of course, in the same way that Democrats protested in 2004 and Donald Trump raised issues in 2020, we're going to make sure that this election counts, that every legal ballot is counted. We've filed almost 100 lawsuits at the RNC to try to ensure that every legal ballot has counted. I think you would maybe criticize that. We see that as an important effort to ensure election integrity, but certainly we're going to respect the results in 2024, and I feel very confident they're going to make Donald Trump the next president.
Okay. So the thing is that this was a very nuanced discussion in the sense that she wanted to get something out of him, but he also wanted her to acknowledge that the media hiding the Hunter story with a laptop was wrong. And later, I saw that this story was being reported on, whether it's NBC, CBS News, those type of national news, local news, whatever you want, and even things like Saturday Night Live. Anytime that they mentioned this, what do you think that they mentioned? How do you think they described it?
Combative,
Basically, the thing that they were all saying
aggressive.
was, the headline was JD Vance refuses to acknowledge that Trump lost in 2020
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever it is. He was asked a question, he refused to answer it. And the
Yeah,
thing
well,
is,
he
they
didn't.
would
Here's the thing: he didn't refuse to answer it. He refused to answer it under the premises that she gave. She was trying, as this is a courtroom trick that's frequently used by people in cross examination, where they try to force you to answer a complex question with a yes or no to make you somehow seem like you're being unreasonable, or if they can get you to answer that question yes or no, then they can damage your credibility as a witness. This is a well-known trick that's out there. We're gonna take this really complex issue, and I'm gonna force you to say yes or no, because then I've got you in a trap. You just said yes or you just said no, and now I can take that somewhere else, and I can now say, "Oh, well, you said no, you wouldn't do this," and so then you can do other things with it. So yeah, it's a joke, honestly.
And now, and just to give you an example of it, anytime I would see these shows, whether it's the news or whatever it is, and they talked about this thing that we were just looking at, not only were they describing it in a way that I felt was disingenuous, because they were just saying like he refuses to answer, and then they're because they need to give a soundbite. Um, they somehow, kind of like with Harris and her interviews, they manipulated this footage that actually they didn't want to show the part that he was asking about the laptop,
Mhm.
because the laptop would actually show them in a bad light. So they're just like, he refuses to answer, look at the clip, and then they show just this like 3 words of him saying something and cutting it off. So it's misrepresenting what I think the conversation was, and then also misrepresenting the video that actually would back up what they're claiming, which is actually false. So, and again, this is a bipartisan thing. I if you're a regular person and you use any kind of logic and you're honest with yourself, the way they described it in their news items was not true, considering compared to what I watched. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then let me see if I can find it here, because I want to show you. And again, I hope I don't get any kind of copyright thing. But let's see if I can get this here. Can you hear it?
No, I can't hear that one.
Okay, let me do this. Let me try to find it again. You couldn't hear anything?
No, not on that one.
Okay, I'm trying to find it again. Let's hope that this will work.
The 76 tabs that Price has open, he has to find the right one to
Okay,
share.
let's see if I can do it, and tell me if it works this time. Okay. Can
In
you
an
hear?
interview with the New York Times,
That's
J.D.
working.
Vance was repeatedly asked if Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Let's see how he handled it.
I'm going to ask you again, did Donald Trump lose the
And I've
2020
answered
election?
your question with another question.
Then Vance offered to move the interview under a bridge so he could answer in the form of a riddle.
Now, the thing that you see here, that he's like, I'm going to answer your question with another question, that's how the mainstream media showed it. Didn't
Mhm.
talk about the laptop, didn't explain what he was trying to say. They're just like, look, he refused to answer the question. And even though this is sort of satire, supposedly, and a joke, this little segment of what he showed, that's how the other news networks were. It's as if everybody agreed that they would only have that little soundbite, and they refused to show anything else that he said, that basically his answer was that he was criticizing these networks and how they were presenting certain news. And in order to not be criticized, and in one case, actually something that they made a mistake on, they deleted all of that and just put the thing in that suited whatever narrative that they were pushing.
Yeah.
And this just goes along with what I was telling you. I don't need them if they don't like Vance, or they do like them. That's really not the relevant thing here. I just think that if there's an election, some of these networks have to do a little more to just seemingly be a little neutral. How can it be that just one candidate, everything they do is great, and the other side, everything they do is bad? How can anybody take that seriously? If somebody's really trying to decide, I would say, listen, there's a lot of people that have decided that they're voting, let's say, for Trump, and the people that are voting for Kamala, there's a lot of them that have decided that as well. But I think a lot of kind of more middle of the road, maybe people who are undecided, and there is a significant amount of those. I would say elections usually are decided based on that group of people. And you and I, we've been around the block a number of times with all this kind of pop culture being hijacked by politics. So we're very sensitive to stuff like this. We already know
Mhm.
when it's happening. But a regular person, maybe a more like normie person doesn't know anything. They're watching the news, they're watching Lester Holt talk, and they think, oh, this guy's reliable. And then he tells them, look, he refused to answer. And you think, oh, okay, he refused to answer. Later, it turns out that that's not even exactly what happened. But you trust these kind of news people and these kind of swing voters or undecided people, which are very crucial in the elections. They're not really getting any kind of reliable info.
Oh yeah, it's like I said, it's frustrating to know that there's so many people out there who are still relying on mainstream media, which has essentially completely bought in to one particular party. And it's hilarious to actually see. I'm sure you've seen some of the recent people decrying how, oh, there's the mainstream media is so right leaning and stuff, and it's just laughably funny to think that there's actually people out there that believe that. I think Mark Cuban was one of them. Of course, he's a twit, so that's okay. But people say, oh, the mainstream media is right. And it's like, what?
I don't think they are. I don't know
What
who would
world are
think that
you
they're
living on?
they're all in left,
Oh
and
yeah.
I always think that that's what they were. Even growing up, I think that that was more their direction. But even they knew that if they wanted to do something that felt more like middle of the road, that was more for just middle of the road America, a lot of times whatever they did was more kind of subtle and underneath the surface. When it came to voting, most of the time what they would say is there would be these kind of PSAs: go register and vote, you got to vote. They wouldn't tell you which candidate to vote for. They just keep telling you how important it is to vote. I'm sure maybe there were nuanced ways where they could spread whatever messages or whatever they wanted, but it was very, very quiet and very nuanced and not aggressive, if at all. Even I think they understood they had more of a responsibility. Some of these news people, I think, felt more responsible as news people. They understood what their role was in society, and at least some of them had some kind of minimum amount of integrity. I'm not saying they all did. I mean, there's always been some slippery news people. Look at that guy that fooled Diana and also caused Michael Jackson to get sued and almost go to jail. Remember that guy?
Yeah, yeah.
Martin Bashir, whatever his name was.
Bashir,
He went
yeah.
and he fooled Diana and made it seem like what was it? Do you remember this thing that he told her that the palace, the royal palace, was out to get her, and then she believed him. She did the interview. He completely like fooled her. At the end, it turned out that he just lied to her. He was all fancy. He was a fancy,
Mhm.
newsman. I don't know if he came from the BBC or wherever he came from. I
Yeah, he was, yeah, he came from the BBC.
Later, he
He
went to
was British.
ITV. Like, he was so sought after that
Yeah.
after his scoops for the bullshit. Sorry for the term, BS scoops. The ITV wanted him. The competitor, they wanted him. And then they brought him, and then he did the whole thing with Michael Jackson, where he did this whole documentary, quote unquote, exposing him and all this stuff. Because of that documentary, that's what actually caused the authorities in the states to want to try to investigate him or investigate him again or whatever it was. He had something to do with that. uh, his uh, his whole story. And at the end, when you learn that this guy had no integrity, was just lying through his teeth, just wanted the story, didn't care about anything, and I honestly think if it wasn't for this guy who was very untrustworthy, I don't think we would have had the second Michael Jackson trial. I think that the first one is something that probably we would have had, but that second one, I don't know if it would have existed.
Mhm.
That interview that he did with him.
Yeah. Um, yeah, both of those were very, very gross, interviews, that just the way they were done and how deceptive they were
He was a
in
deceptive guy, and,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I
I
mean,
remember that later on, he worked for MSNBC for a while, and then don't remember if he was fired or if he resigned from there, but
I
he
think
made some really crude, remarks about Sarah Palin,
yeah, I think
while
something
she
like
was a
that happened.
candidate.
I think just over time, it turned out that people learned about his, tech techniques, which were based on a lot of lies and a lot of, deceit. And I think that was just the end of his career. But the fact that he probably affected the lives of Diana and of Michael Jackson in the way that he did, and nothing happened to him. The reason I even gave this example is that I'm not delusional, and it's not that I think that all all journalists or news people or whatever were all great always. There's
Yeah.
always been some bad people there, but I think that there were at least certain people within this field that projected some kind of integrity, that you could trust that if they're doing a broadcast or they're talking, you could trust that it's not just some random crap, or that somebody in some switchboard or some activist somewhere like a candidate, so they're just going to throw the other one under the bus and make one look good. I really don't remember that growing up. I don't remember that kind of extreme reporting.
Yeah, and I think there was a tradition for a very long time of journalists establishing themselves as something outside of the fray. They were outside of the politics. They were outside of, the power structure. They were there as, the famous phrase of the fifth estate. They were there specifically to speak truth to power, to uncover when there were conspiracies or when there were things that were happening that were not above board. And their purpose in society was to be one of exposing truth. And yes, I think that there have been a lot of journalists historically who have tried very hard to establish themselves that way, and they respected their role in society as journalists in doing that, and found purpose in doing that. But there are, I mean, honestly, I'm not sure I could really even name one today that I would consider that classical, journalist that's staying outside of all of this, not advocating for anything, and simply trying to report objectively on what's going on. Other than, maybe a handful of reporters working on certain beats, outside of more mainstream television. I don't think I could think of anybody.
Well, do you think Brian Williams was like that?
Brian Williams? Um, I don't know. He might have been one of the last that was really trying to do that.
He kind of you had the impression that he was trying to be a bit
Yeah.
neutral. I don't know if he really was, but until he messed up with all of his whatever it is that he did that kind of ruined his career, uh, he had that kind of image of like the fair newscaster guy.
Yeah, probably. I think the only other name that really comes to mind is probably Catherine Herridge, if you know who that is.
I'm not
Um,
familiar. Where's she from?
she's actually, I think she's originally Canadian. She's worked for a bunch of different news agencies, doing um, uh, various different various different beats, covering the White House, covering international news, and so on. But she's very even-handed. She's again, I think she treats and always treated that job very seriously as a reporter. So that would just off the top of my head, someone else that I was thinking of there. I know that she was at some point. I think she was pressured to reveal a source, potentially with jail time behind it, and refused. So yeah,
Yeah. So I guess that I think that's just the way the elections are going to be this time, and I don't see it changing until the election.
oh no, no, they're going to continue. They are all in for Harris. They're going to continue to advocate for her. They're going to continue to try and they're going to continue to try and boost her campaign in any way they possibly can. Um,
I wonder if
uh,
they're panicking because they know something, or they're just panicking. Until now, I felt that these elections are very close. And if you told me to tell you for sure, there have been cases before that I said, I think this person is going to win, and usually you kind of know. I feel like most of the time when I think something, it usually happens. This one has been strange, really hard to evaluate. Uh, I also don't trust the polls very much. I don't trust a lot of people reporting on polls, so I don't really know. I'd say that if I had to give my instinct, I think that this may be one of the closest elections we've had in a very long time. I think it could be close.
Yeah. You keep looking at some of the different polls. You keep trying to determine exactly, where we stand. I don't think we're going to know until after the votes are counted. Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
yeah, I
I
don't
will
think
say,
so.
just historically, looking at where the polls are right now, historically, you find that typically the Republican vote, the vote on the right, tends to be underrepresented in many of these polls. Democrats tend to be overrepresented. And so if you actually look at the margins of error and or to measure those, if you remember, I mean, uh, basically everyone had given up thinking that Hillary was a shoe-in and she was up by 8 points in most of the polls going up to the election. Right now, in a lot of places, Harris is only up by 1 to 3 points at best. So yeah, it's gonna be a squeaker. It's gonna be a close one. At least it seems that way. Who
It seems
knows?
that way.
Maybe on election night it's a total blowout. I have
Yeah, I
no
mean,
idea.
with Hillary, they said, "Oh, it's a," they were all the polls were in her favor, and then on election night, those all those newscasters were stunned. He was just kind of beating her in all these places. That was like that really kind of launched a new era of mainstream media meltdown.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen a bunch of people so like salty and sour about losing something that they wanted. I mean, okay, so you liked a certain candidate and that candidate didn't win. Sometimes
Oh yeah. Yeah.
sometimes that happens.
The people who have their whole identities tied up in these elections and certain candidates and certain things. I mean, I suppose it's not surprising, knowing especially, on the left, a lot of people who, when you listen to the arguments that different people are making and when they're playing this identity politics, they're very strongly reaching into people's lives and telling them if you don't vote this way, your livelihood is going to be over, or your way of life is going to be over, or if you are a woman who likes to sleep with women, you're not going to be allowed to do that anymore if such and such wins, right? And I think it's just absurd to the level that some people go to try and demonize uh specifically, let's say, demonize Donald Trump. I mean, I'm not a big Donald Trump fan. I think he's a little gross in some ways. I don't think he's particularly the most morally upstanding citizen that we've got in the United States. I find him in a lot of situations. I find him kind of annoying, grating. But I'll be honest, I'm going to be casting my vote for him. That's where it's going to go because I can't possibly support someone on the other side who supports so many policies that I cannot get behind. For me, it's a policy thing. It's a policy thing, right? It's the policies that they support, the policies they stand for, and uh, one side for me is what's going to get my vote over the other one because of just rational thinking through the policies and looking at who the candidates are. So, yeah.
I mean, I think that he had the personality that was more suitable for this type of businessman billionaire. And sometimes a person with that personality, I don't know if they have the exact temperament or personality that I think is a perfect match for being a president.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't sit around. I don't have like TDS, and I don't sit around and like hate on the guy. But at the same time, I kind of, recently there was something that I don't know why. Maybe a video was recommended to me on YouTube, and I think it was something like Johnny Carson interviewing Ronald Reagan before he became president,
Hmm.
and you see this conversation of a guy that's so thoughtful, so well spoken, so focused on what he's saying, And you see that kind of guy and you're like, wow, that's that guy. Even today, after all these years, I see that video and that guy really convinces me that he could be a president. Uh, he has the demeanor. He has a lot of qualities and the right temperament. Personally, if you ask me, I think that Donald Trump, maybe his attitude is great for his business ventures. I don't know if they're as perfect for the presidential thing. At the same time, it's not like I look at Kamala and think that I see anything special there either.
Mhm.
Uh, it's really a tough spot that I'm put in.
Yeah. No,
that,
I understand.
that I would even
For
have to vote here. Like it's a tough spot,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, and
But
and I totally get it. I mean, I think there are, a lot of people who are they're just not sure. There's also, there's always this, people get caught in this personality trap of being told, oh, but the personality, looking at the personality, who would you rather have a beer with, kind of a thing. And honestly, I mean, I'm a very analytical person when it comes to things. I'm going to sit down and I am going to, yeah, Lisa, rather have a beer with Trump than Harris. That's fine. But when it comes to me determining, who am I going to vote for in my local elections? Who am I going to vote for to be on the board of my local school or whatever? Like, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the statements that they've made, the policies that they're supporting, and I'm going to determine from there exactly who I plan to vote for. Uh, the personality stuff, that I can get over, right? But yeah, there's a lot of reasons that people pick candidates or choose to cast their votes in one way or another. But you know, that's entirely up to you to make that decision, and entirely up
everybody makes the
whether
decision
you
that
want to share that decision with others or not, right?
right. Everybody makes the decision that's good for them. And I honestly, I don't care if somebody wants to vote for one person or another, as long as they just keep their. Uh, I don't even want to say keep their positions to themselves. Even if you have a position I don't agree with you and you voted for a candidate and I don't like that candidate, even that doesn't mean I can't be your friend. If our friendship relies on the fact that you want to lecture to me all day why you voted this way and I didn't vote
Yeah,
it,
there you go. Yeah,
then it starts becoming an issue. But as long as it's like, oh, I believe that, that's why I vote. Oh, okay, well, I'll see you later. I don't really care about that, and I hope that other people wouldn't get so caught up on it because at the end of the day, you know, I don't know if George Carlin he was like, "Oh, there's a big club and you're not invited," or I don't know how he used to explain it. That we're all getting bent out of shape over this stuff, and at the end, how much we really matter sometimes is up for debate.
sure. I know what you mean.
So yeah, but it was an interesting, look into this, and I
Yeah,
thought it was worth mentioning.
yeah,
Like I said, it's not so much that I want to push any kind of political views on anybody, but I do think that coverage should be neutral, which because I don't see that, that's why I brought it up.
sure.
But aside from that, there were some other interesting things going on. Although these days, that's really just a secondary thing. The other stuff these days.
Yeah. What
Uh,
while you're digging, what did you think of the news about Asmongold being kicked off of Twitch today? Did you see any of that?
I did see that. I believe he weighed in on the conflict in the Middle East, saying
Yes,
some comments that I guess weren't for everybody. The only thing that surprised me was that he said those things on Twitch, because I think they're very cautious about things like that.
they are.
And the fact that he said it, he must have known that that would get him in hot water. No,
I mean, you would assume. Honestly, I thought maybe some of what he had to say was maybe a little offsides. Not that he's not allowed to have an opinion. He certainly is. I think perhaps it was a little too mean-spirited in the way that he was talking about it.
He probably could have worded his opinions better.
Exactly.
It's not that I don't understand what he was trying to say, because
Yes.
if you tone down the rhetoric of what he was saying, I think that he was sort of echoing what I even saw over the weekend that Bill Maher was saying, that a lot of these kind of woke Gen Z weirdos, they're looking at these kind of bad organizations that want to cause harm also in America and all over the world, and they're kind of identifying with them for some dumb reason. And I think that that kind of echoed that sentiment. But whereas Bill Maher, I thought, did a really thoughtful job of explaining it, I think that this guy was just sort of shooting from the hip, saying it in the most kind of unfiltered and extreme way. Uh, I'm not rattled by it myself, by what he said, but I
No.
can understand why not choosing to word that differently would get him in hot water, especially on a platform like Twitch.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, if his rhetoric had potentially been in the other direction regarding this conflict, I wonder if he would have been banned or not.
No, nothing would have
'Cause I
happened to him.
I
They would have
I
told him.
I I have a feeling there's been a lot of others out there saying some rather unsavory, unfiltered things in the other political direction.
Oh, there's certainly a lot of
And
them.
Twitch is just fine with that. So, mm,
Every
yeah,
5 minutes, you have those kind of Pedro Pascal and Mark Ruffalo and all those weirdos, you know, tweeting and talking about things like that as their heart desires. And I don't think anybody ever says anything to them. Just like the same with Gina Carano, that her own co-stars said things that were much worse using similar analogies. Nobody had
absolutely.
anything bad to say about
Yeah.
them because they were leaning politically in a way that Kathleen Kennedy liked. So there was no point in saying anything bad, even though they were doing something worse than Gina Carano. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. It always seems to go one side with these type of things.
Yeah,
But
of course, this is Twitch. They ban and unban people all the time. So,
well,
yeah,
we'll see what happens with him. You
yeah,
think they're gonna get him back?
Yeah, Tomby mentioned Hassan, for example. Yeah, yeah, Hassan has done some
Yeah, I
pretty
mean, if
out
they
there
let that
things.
guy
Said
be
some
there,
pretty
then I
out
think
there.
Asmongold
Yeah,
could say
yeah.
whatever he wants.
No, Asmongold probably he'll be back on Twitch in a brief period. I mean, come on, Twitch knows how its bread is buttered, and they've had lots of streamers who've been banned before, and they let them back on after 48 hours or whatever because guess what? They're money makers.
I like Asmongold much more than that Hassan guy personally.
Yeah.
Uh, also recently there's been a lot of Gamergate stuff, and I thought that Asmongold had a pretty reasonable takes about it.
Yeah.
Usually that Hassan guy, I struggle to recall when I thought he had a take that wasn't completely weird.
Weird.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't say weird anymore without thinking of Rachel Ziegler and her stupid meme. But that is what I think about Hassan. You could copy paste that meme on him.
Or who was it today? Stephen King tweeting Trump is weird. It's
You
like
know,
they're really trying to meme this to hell with the whole like calling Republicans weird thing, and it's just not working.
it's not working. It's as
so
if they
dumb.
knew they're the weird, like in a way that they're okay. I don't want to say they're the weird ones because I'm sure there's people that aren't weird. But when it comes to the extreme leftists with all the woke stuff, to me they seem very weird. So for them to be going around and calling other people weird
JD
is
Vance
just
is
kind of
weird.
strange.
Trump is weird. Yeah, I guess who's weird? You're weird.
I mean, they did that with Walls too. The second that Walls was announced, and then you had JD Vance, they all started saying before anybody said anything about Walls, they're like, JD Vance is weird, and it's like, and it seemed like they were all pushing this narrative, and it's such a strange narrative to try to push because between Walls and JD Vance, JD Vance looks much less weird than Walz.
It's
I'm going to
considerably.
tell you something else. Out of the 4 candidates, I think that the person that looks the most not weird is actually JD Vance.
That's yeah. I would agree.
He's the only guy that they just sit them and ask him a question. He like
Just
takes
seems like a
the-
normal, yeah,
just like a normal person.
normal
It sounds like
dude.
a strange thing to say. He's the only one that sits there like a normal person and answers the question. Tim Walz makes a bunch of faces. Kamala can't construct a sentence together. She like laughs a lot. Trump is kind of, everything he says is to the extreme.
Yeah.
Sometimes within the extremity, whatever it is, there is a shred of something that makes some kind of sense. But man, the way he says it is just like he chooses he chooses a very out there way to explain his position. Whereas Vance, you just talk to him and he just answers questions and talks like a person.
Yep.
That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Yeah. He talks like a relatively smart person.
Right. He sounds like a guy who doesn't sound stupid either. Out of all the debates, everything that we've seen, I think that the only person in a debate that really seemed to me like he was really acting like, again, lack of a better term, acting like a regular person is Vance.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's
But-
somebody of that group there I would want to have a beer with, it would probably be Vance.
He seems just like a regular person.
Yep.
And even the fact that, people would say, oh, he's an Islamophobe, or I don't know what they'd try to pin on him. His wife is, I think looking at his wife gives me the feeling that he's not an Islamophobe.
Yeah. Oh.
But that's just my opinion, of course.
Yes. What other things did we have to talk about today, Bryce?
Well, we were talking about Aspen Gold, which I interrupted you in the middle.
No, that's all right. I think we were pretty much done with that. I was just
No,
curious.
there was something else. There was something else that I wanted to share here. And see, it's spilling into all different things. So Jerry Seinfeld regrets commenting extreme left-wing comedy. It's not true. I feel like somebody had sat Jerry Seinfeld down and said, hey, you better take that back,
comrade.
But you know what? I don't think that he was making it up when he said it.
Oh,
He's
no. He
saying
was being
things that are-
absolutely true. He was being completely and 100% honest. And he's not wrong. I mean, I'm sure someone got to him, told him, you should take that back, or that's not fair, or do you know that you're giving comfort to the enemy, or something like that. But
I mean,
yeah.
this really looks like he was told to retract his statement. People
Yes.
said there's an election year. You better say that you're sorry. You can't say that the extreme left ruined comedy. And I am 100% sure that's what he wanted to say, because we've been following these studios that hire these type of extreme left activists and how they've, injected those kind of woke ideas and politics and all that stuff. And we know how they've ruined it. It's what we do and what we talk about all the time. Seinfeld isn't stupid. He knows what comedy is, and he knows when it was ruined, and he knows why it was ruined. When he said all this, he meant it 100%. It kind of disappoints me that they got to him and now he has to apologize.
Yep. Yeah, I honestly, I genuinely like Seinfeld. I think he's one of the last few comedians that's still kind of middle of the road, still making jokes about everybody on every side, and just kind of telling it like it is. But yeah, retracting this statement. I don't know. Someone mentions this is probably his manager. I don't know. Told him to take it back or whatever. But yeah, he's said a lot of stuff recently that I've thought was pretty insightful, honestly, into our current
Right.
culture.
I mean, I feel
and
like
how
in
much
the past few years, I
yeah.
really feel like he was calling out a lot of crap. And this isn't a good sign. He's like, oh, Seinfeld started as mea culpa, but saying there were 2 things that I have to say I regret saying and that I have to take back. One of them I didn't say, but people think I did. So just the same. I said I don't play colleges because the kids are too PC and you can't do comedy for them. He probably said it and meant it. Oh, I play them all the time. I have no problem with kids performing with them. And then the other thing he apologized was for the did an interview, and then he goes, "I did say that. That the extreme left has suppressed the art of comedy. I did say that. That's not true. It's not true." Listen, this isn't a thing where he's like saying, "Oh, you know what? When I grew up, I had three T-shirts, and it turned out that he had 4 T-shirts."
Mhm.
This is a situation where he expressed his very clear opinion about something, and I think that when he said that the kids today are too offended and they're too PC, and that extreme left has ruined comedy, I believe he meant that. That's not some off the cuff comment you make without thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Sometimes you have
Yeah.
off the cuff comment. You just say like, she has a nice rack. Oh, I wish I hadn't said that. But that's not like I don't know if that was a good example, but you know what I'm trying to say. This isn't just some like gaffe or like you happen to say something and maybe you shouldn't have said it or whatever. This is 100% like a position that he had, that he's just 180 degrees turned his back on that position. He just wants everybody to be cool with him. And I have to wonder why.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know.
And this is what he said earlier this year. It used to be that this is what he's apologizing for. It used to be that you would go home at the end of the day, people would go, "Oh, Cheers is on, MASH is on, Mary Tyler Moore is on, All in the Family is on. Where is it? Where is it?" This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke. Well, that's the end of your comedy, he said earlier this year. With certain comedians now, people are having fun with them stepping over the line and us all laughing about it. But again, it's the stand-ups that really have the freedom to do it because no one else gets the blame if it doesn't go down well. He or she can take all the blame themselves. So Seinfeld is
Mhm.
now using the Uno reverse card on those comments. Well, that's a weird thing.
Yeah.
If you're Lindsey Vonn, you're a champion skier. You can put the gates anywhere you want on the mountain. She's going to make the gate. That's comedy. Whatever the culture is, we make the gate. You don't make the gate, you're out of the game. The game is, where's the gate? How do I make the gate and get down the hill? This sounds like one of the openings to like a Seinfeld. Where do I
Mhm.
make the gate? The gate's down the hill. I can't do a good Seinfeld, but you know what I'm trying to say. Anyhow, he's just like doing a 180 degrees, mea culpa, apologizing,
Yeah.
saying that he's sorry. And I think that the guy has enough money and enough of a reputation that he didn't need to do any of this. He said what he said at the beginning. He meant what he said. It was
Mhm.
too elaborate of a thought to just pretend that he made a mistake by thinking that. Suddenly, a few
Yeah.
months later, it's not the extreme left that ruined comedy and not PC crap and all that. It's like all of that has been resolved now.
Someone was gonna cut off his adrenochrome supply, and, no,
Anything
I'm
is possible.
just joking.
Uh,
No, it's so weird, when you see that kinda thing, and it's kinda sad too, because you kinda feel like, he would be able to stand up for himself, but who knows? Who knows? I think that was a Variety article, wasn't it? Like, earlier this year?
about what?
When, that he made those statements about, the extreme left and the PC crap
He
running
said it was a
everything.
New Yorker article.
Mm. Yeah, interview with the New Yorker. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think for a second. Oh, I didn't see this movie, but this is curious. Have you heard about this? I'm trying to bring it up. Of course, it's not working.
You didn't see this movie, so you must be talking about The Wild Robot, right?
No, I haven't seen that yet. I was talking about the Terrifier movie. There's a movie
Oh,
called
no.
Terrifier,
Yeah.
which basically they made it for like for $5 or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They made like
Oh, yeah.
$2 million budget, which in Hollywood today is considered absolutely nothing. And then that movie this week really, I think it was number one. It made more than Joker in its second weekend. A movie that cost $2 million managed to severely embarrass a movie that cost $200 million to make. Now I know Joker was crap, But this Terrifier thing, I'm not really even familiar with it. Did you watch the first and second one? I haven't.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I could care less for any horror slasher films. Most of them, like, they're full of jump scares. Jump scares don't do anything for me. I usually just sit there and go like, yeah, okay,
You,
next.
you know,
Right? I don't find those types of movies entertaining at all. If you go to the classic slasher films like the 80s, 90s stuff with the original,
I mean, there's
Halloween
better
and
ones.
stuff,
I like
those,
Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street,
yeah, see
Friday the
those,
13th. There's some ones that I like that are more classic, but I'm
see,
just saying that on a business level, I
yeah,
like that some guy came around with a $2 million movie and managed to embarrass the entire industry.
oh
I
yeah,
like stuff
yeah,
like that.
it's great. And I'll be honest, I think this is where studios need to be looking, not specifically horror movies. I mean, the funny thing is that horror movies, you're automatically limiting your audience to a very, very small number of people compared to the wider audience that you could have out there. But if it's bringing those people in, if they're expecting to have a good time, they're gonna show up, right? A
It's
lot
a
of these people
popular
who love,
niche. Not only is it a popular niche, I think that horror is still, compared to other genres, the one that you could bring a cast that's not the most well known.
sure,
Bring something that's just very simple idea, but if it has that kind of vibe to it, even if it's cheap, it tends to bring people. When it comes to cost effective, I think that the horror genre is very cost effective in many cases.
absolutely, yeah, it very much is. So, yeah, no,
It,
I did not see this. I'm not my kind of film, but yeah, they essentially, they made what, 6x, their money back just over the weekend? Their
yeah,
first
let me
weekend for
see how
this?
much they made. Let's see if
Um, oh, no, it says almost 11 times now. Worldwide box office is almost 11 times their budget. So, or almost 12, excuse me. It's 11.7 times projection, uh,
good
production.
for them. Good for them. I
So yeah,
mean,
I think this is where Hollywood needs to be looking at lower budget films. Stop with all of these insane blockbuster budgets. We've got movies coming out. You've got the Captain America 4 coming out, and the reported budget is at least 500 million. You know that there's more in there with all the reshoots they've been doing and everything that they've put out there. You know that that movie is probably going to end up costing 6 to 700 million dollars. And they are going to lose a huge amount of money on that film. But there's
I
all of
believe
these
it.
other movies like Joker. They spent, what was 180 was their budget?
I think at 200 million, or
Or
maybe
200
something like
million? I
that.
don't
I don't
remember,
know.
but just insane budgets for these films. The reason the first film was such a success was because it was made on a very reasonable budget. Yeah, it did really well in the theaters, partly because it was a movie that resonated with a lot of people, but it also performed so well for the studio because it was made for a very reasonable amount of money. But you have all these monstrous budgets that are just completely out of control, and it's going to destroy Hollywood, honestly. I mean, I'm okay with that. uh, I think there is some destruction that might be needed there, but they need to be turning to these smaller budget movies. These more independent pictures and stuff need to be made, and that's where the creativity is, right? Because when you get these movies with these monstrous budgets, frankly, criminal in some cases, seems like budgets, that they have to play it so safe. It's like, oh, we put $300 million into this movie. It's got to hit all four quadrants, and it has to do this, and it has to do that, and it has to appeal to these people, and it has to appeal to those people, and it has to have this messaging in it, and it has to have that in it, so that we don't get, roasted by somebody or whatever. Like, it's just played so safe that now all the creativity has been leached out of it. And I think, yeah, I'm again, not a horror film fan, but uh, you know, great for these people going out there making something. First of all, making something new. Yes, I know it's a sequel, but making building out a new franchise, making these movies for very reasonable amounts of money and hitting it big at the box office. Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, I like this kind of stuff. I'll always be more supportive towards these smaller productions that are trying to get stuff off the ground. And when you see something like Joker that just spit in the face of its own customers, and then you have this guy with $2 million embarrassing that movie, I
Oh yeah.
like to see that kind of stuff. It's definitely it feels like that's what needs to happen. And like you said, I think that Hollywood needs to be more responsible with how much money it spends on movies.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, with Joker, oh wow.
I
Just
mean, could
the
there be an even bigger
huge
disaster than what's happened with Joker?
huge budget that they had for this. And then let's see, it's the reported production budget I'm seeing is 190 million. And for them to only bring home uh so far only 165, and that's after a second weekend with an 81, only 82% drop from their first weekend. I mean, they're probably not going to make they're probably not going to even going to hit 250 by the time they pull this from
This feels
theaters.
like an Indiana Jones in the
Yeah, it's a huge
type of
huge flop.
situation. Yeah.
And there's already been some news. It sounds like they're going to be putting this on the Max service in like the next 3-4 weeks or something. So they're already expecting this to have run its course in the theaters just over the next couple of weeks. I'm not surprised. I mean, yeah, it was a complete middle finger to everyone who liked the first film.
By the
And
way,
yeah,
I'm looking at this thing. I see that this wild robot is really doing well. You said it
it's
was good. You saw
yeah,
this movie. What
I
what
did.
what'd you think about it?
So it is a kids movie. It's got a lot of uh, kid oriented, sort of goofball comedy kind of stuff in it. But overall, it's a very genuine, emotional story about this robot who's lost in the wilderness and is looking for purpose, essentially. And she ends up finding a goose. She actually ends up orphaning this goose. So she falls and she crushes the rest of his family. And so then she determines that her purpose is to raise this goose, and so becomes a mother to the gosling and raises it. And so there's a lot of very emotional, very touching stuff that's in there about family and parents and the responsibility they have to their children. And there's a little bit in there about how parents mess up their kids, right? And how kids resent their parents for the restrictions that they put on them. But it's a very touching movie. It's very well told. It's very well paced. The animation is beautiful, and even the voice acting, for the most part, is also done really well. I would say the only voice acting in it that I did not like was everybody's favorite Pedro Pascal, who plays one of the
Oh, he's
one
in
of the
this
main
movie.
characters.
I can't believe it.
Who
He's
I,
in
who I
every
did not
movie.
like his performance at all.
How is
But
this guy in every movie? I mean, I know the answer to it, but it's still annoying. By the way, have you seen this? Professor? Professor, are you there?
our kids to the theater. So,
I feel like I lost you for a second. I don't know if it's you.
oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I will say it was just a really enjoyable film. It's a great family movie. There's a lot in it there for both kids and the parents. And yeah. Oh, someone said Phantom Monk said over on Rumble, it's not Disney. So I think that also helped a lot for the appeal. It looks like we've got Tom from Midnight Sag After Dark.
he
has
actually is
popped up
saying
in the
something
chat. Hey there,
interesting.
buddy.
You read this. Do you see the highlighted comment? You read it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
pin
People are
something.
saying what I was that Wild Robot got a bump from teenagers buying tickets and sneaking into Terrifier. That's funny. Yeah, it's entirely possible. I've heard people saying that there were people taking their kids to see Terrifier. I don't know if that's true, but not for me. I'm not interested.
Well, but did you see the thing back to what we were looking at? This how did I get this weird women's shoes thing? Oh, okay. Can you see it? The rare discovery at the Indiana Jones site.
No, actually, I have not seen this. What's this about?
So basically, in Petra in Jordan, where they filmed Indiana Jones and
Yeah, of course.
The Last Crusade, apparently underneath where they were filming, they found a 2,000-year-old tomb with 12 skeletons and a Holy Grail, which is so weird. It sounds like everybody like reading it is probably thinking of the Knights and the Holy Grail.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's
That's
just really
interesting.
weird that they found that there, but apparently this is a real thing. Now I don't know if that really is the Holy Grail or who these skeletons were or what it is, but it is interesting that they found that there. It is a
What are
very
the chances, right? That would in Petra where they used for the supposedly the tomb where the
well, at least I guess Spielberg was in and Lucas
yeah.
had some good
Hey.
ideas. It is a very interesting place. I've always liked how it looks. This place.
Oh yeah, just carved right out of the side of the mountain. It's yeah, it's gorgeous. Very interesting.
And by the way, wherever you're watching this show now, make sure to like and subscribe and follow. That would always help. I know some people they watch wherever they're at. Maybe they're not subscribed or they're not actually viewing with an account. They're just viewing as a guest. But if it's not too much trouble, it always helps our channel. If there's any kind of like or share or subscription you want to do, it's always good. A lot of people that watch us on Rumble. Rumble is a great platform for freedom of speech. And if you're around here and you're sort of one of the people that kind of watch but they not really subscribed, you should subscribe. This is a great place with a lot of very interesting content, so I would recommend that. In any case, Professor R2, he has his own channel on Rumble, I believe. Right, you have a Professor R2 channel on Rumble,
I
correct?
do. I don't have much up there. I have a meme video that I posted.
Well,
That's
that's
about it.
still
But hey, you can still
nevertheless.
you can still go out there and follow me on X if you like, Professor_R2. Yeah.
And I see Marla Sharendorf here in the chat. Marla is a friend of the channel. She likes Quantum Leap. I like Quantum Leap. Tried to pin her comment, but somehow it didn't work. But I am happy to see her here, as always, along with some other people, which of course we're going to shout out a bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it was funny that they actually found this
Yeah,
thing in this site.
that's fascinating. I have to read up about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna read a bit more about about it too. But it's cool. It's cool, and I like here they like dug right outside of where like Indiana Jones, and the guy kind of looks like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah.
I bet you I bet you that he looks like Indiana Jones on purpose. Meaning, I bet that this guy that's digging said like, "I want to look like Indiana
Oh yeah,
Jones."
yeah.
And
They're gonna be coming and they're gonna be shooting photographs. I'm gonna dress up like Indiana Jones.
I'm the Indiana Jones out of like he told these other guys here, he's like, out of the four of us, I'm Indiana Jones. You can be Salah or you could be whatever. I am Indiana Jones. You could tell this guy in the middle, he's decided this.
We named the dog Indiana.
What a great movie. That really is the final Indiana Jones movie.
It
As far as
absolutely
I'm
is.
concerned, I never have to see Crystal Skull and definitely
Nope.
not Dial of Destiny ever again.
Yep. No, there's just the three. The other two are nothing worth seeing. Yeah. Honestly,
I've o-
I never saw the fifth one. I have no interest in seeing it. I'm not gonna watch it. I can live the rest of my life without ever seeing another Indiana Jones film. So
You know, I watched Dial of Destiny, but just because I wanted to review it, I knew it would be bad. It was probably worse. You always think, "Oh, this is going to be bad," and somehow you watch it and it becomes even worse. Uh, the fact that James Mangold, who say what you want about him, but he's not an he knows how to direct a movie.
he
The
does.
fact that that was a movie that he at the end released with his name on it as director is so embarrassing. I mean, that movie was so bad. Nothing I can tell you can prepare you for how bad Indiana Jones is. It's not even just the agenda and all that stuff. It's just scenes are stitched together in a way you could tell that this is something that was put together in the editing room. You
Yeah.
don't really know how they got from one place to another, how they escaped. You know, there's so much head scratching events in that movie that don't make any sense, and it spells out panic. It's the type of panic that I felt when I was watching Rise of Skywalker, also a movie that doesn't make sense. Not that I think it's not a good movie. I mean, the movie somehow is stitched together in a way that doesn't quite make sense. Like somebody's in one place and then they're in another place, and you could tell that some piece of the movie was removed and you don't even know what's going
Mhm.
on. That
Yeah.
kind of stitched together. When
Yeah.
you're watching a movie and it's that obvious, you know you're not watching a good movie.
Yeah. Like, wait, where are we? How did we get here?
To be fair, that also happened in Wonder Woman too, that they were suddenly like in Egypt. How did they get there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like back in the day, you know, 70s, 80s, with a lot less technology and stuff, I don't think that people would just, especially for like a high profile, high budget movie, they couldn't allow a situation like that to happen. You know, you could claim that the movie was good or bad, but I don't remember growing up seeing so many movies that were high budget that a guy is just here and then he's suddenly somewhere else and they never even explain how he got from one place to another. Could be like a different country and they don't explain it.
Yeah. The sloppiness of the a lot of the stuff that's produced in Hollywood now is amazing. They have these huge budgets, but somehow they still manage to make these things that are just so poorly conceived and so poorly constructed. I mean, you look at some of the Marvel films and you look at these huge budgets and the movies don't even make sense. You know, like the Marvels. What? Like that movie was just a disaster from beginning to end.
That one is another one that you could tell that they filmed like 7 times and they
Oh
didn't know what to
yeah.
do with it.
They and you know, there's been a lot of rumors, you know, people have talked about, you know, the scrapbooking technique. Oh, we're just going to shoot all these different scenes and then try slapping it together and you know, stitching it together to then make the story that we want with the different scenes that are shot the different ways that we want and whatever.
That's complete
And
J.J. Abrams. Complete
yeah,
J.J. Abrams, that maneuver. That's how he did The Rise of Skywalker. He just had some set pieces. I'm going to film them. Later, we'll try to stitch together some kind of plot and dialogue. And it is so awful. There's really no shortcuts. I don't know who thought, like, oh, this time it'll work. This time it's going to be a masterpiece. I still have yet to see one time that they tried that technique and it ended up being a masterpiece.
I think you can get away with just barely fooling the audience into watching what you're making. If it's done well, but it's not going to be good because there's not a unifying vision that brings it all together. There's not a well-crafted story that really shapes the picture that you're trying to create to shape this movie. You don't get to have when you're just piecing it together piecemeal from this thing over here and this thing over there and just barely slapping it together in the editing room. You can't really have those setups and payoffs that really sell really help to create a worthwhile story in a film.
I
Right.
want to read this important comment that Marla Sharnoff says. I met Sean Connery once. I am very very jealous of you.
Yeah.
Obviously, she has family in the industry.
Yeah.
Uh, so that it doesn't surprise me that she was able to meet him. But man, that's a really, he's no longer alive,
He's
but
not with
Sean
us anymore.
Connery
Yeah.
was the man.
Oh,
I mean,
he was an absolute legend in his
absolute
time.
legend.
Yeah.
One of my favorite
Um,
actors. I mean, certainly my
yeah.
favorite Bond. When I
Oh,
think James Bond
absolutely.
is Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Sean Connery is the number one James Bond.
Yep.
You know, I didn't dislike Roger Moore. I'd probably give him. I know he wasn't very athletic and all that, and he was older, but hard not to like Roger Moore. There was something about him that was likable,
Oh,
and
he had the charisma just all over, and he was clearly enjoying himself. He was having fun with those films, and they brought a little bit more humor into
yeah, there
those
was more
scripts when
humor, and he
Roger
was
Moore
having
was
fun.
there.
I didn't mind the humor because he
No.
sold it so
No,
well.
yeah, it was done well. It was very tongue in cheek. It was, it was very British humor. But yeah, I also, yeah, Sean Connery is my Bond. He will always be
Always be,
my
and
James Bond. Those first few films, especially Doctor No,
Doctor No is
Goldfinger,
the best. Is probably
um,
the best James Bond movie to date.
and then what's that, From Russia with Love? Uh,
Goldfinger,
Yeah, are just great films
great
on their
classics. Just
own, but they have great performances, great scripts. It just really enjoyable James Bond the spy movie. And really enjoyable seeing him playing that character. I did enjoy Roger Moore in his tenure there. I thought he did a good job. The movies had a very different tone when Roger Moore was there, but it worked because of his performance. And you,
he
again,
just
you
he
said
had
you
a
could tell he was really having a great time embodying that character and playing
whether
in
it was
those
good or
films.
not, he brought a sense of fun to watching Bond, and that's really something that I can give Roger Moore.
Yeah,
If Sean Connery was cool, Roger Moore brought fun. I don't know
yeah,
why he made it fun, but
yeah,
he made it fun. After them, I think that, you know, there hasn't been one better than Bond, but there also haven't been many, if at all, better than Moore. I think that maybe I would give Pierce Brosnan the third place because he was likable enough. He had the look, he kind of had the suave whatever, and
hmm
he had something a bit playful about him. I still think that the
yeah,
humor he did less well than Roger Moore, and the
yeah,
badassness he did a little less than Connery. But somehow, as a not exactly Connery, not exactly Moore, I think that Pierce Brosnan is somewhat decent compromise of sorts.
yeah. Yeah.
And then,
As far as the, who else would you have picked at the time, right? They
no,
had
there weren't a
tried.
lot of choices. I think that with whatever they had to work with, I think that Pierce Brosnan was a pretty good choice. His movies did well. I mean, he came out, he did those movies, they did well. I think Timothy Dalton was sort of a hiccup for them. I think Timothy Dalton is a good dramatic actor. I
Mhm.
think that he didn't bring the badass, cool vibe of Connery, but
Yeah.
he also didn't bring the playful thing that Moore did. And
Yeah.
I think that he tried to give his own interpretation, and I appreciate that. I just didn't love it.
Yeah, and I think he was cursed with some rather crummy script
Yeah,
too.
it was a problematic time where they weren't sure what they were doing in the franchise. Some of it may not be his fault, but I also don't think he was perfectly cast.
No.
Craig I really liked what he did in Casino Royale, and I liked that movie. It's a really good Bond movie, but anything else that came afterwards, I didn't like the movies, and honestly, I didn't like him in them. So
Yeah.
I
I
have a mixed feelings about Craig.
I
And
would give you Casino Royale as a decent Bond movie, but 100%
it's in spite of
Craig.
Craig and not because of him.
Exactly, 100% Craig is not responsible for that success. I thought he was a terrible Bond, and I
I
never
mean, the
liked him in
thing
the
is,
role.
if they would continue to write screenplays on the level of Casino Royale and tell Craig what to do, he could have been a decent Bond if the writing was that strong. But you could really tell in the future ones, as the writing became more flimsy, that that's where the weak side, you could really tell his weakness there, that he doesn't have that fun charisma, that kind of charming vibe. He doesn't really have it. And yeah, that's an issue. And George Lazenby, you know, what am I going to do with George
Yeah.
Lazenby?
I didn't think he was bad, but I didn't think he was great for the part either.
No, no,
He was
and
fine,
really,
and the movie was I think a middling to good script, but it's definitely not one of
they
my
tried their
all-time
best. I didn't like
favorites.
that they tried to make, like, Bond sensitive with that wife and all that stuff. I didn't
Mhm.
like any of that, and at the same time, still hard to believe the weird way in which that Lazenby guy, flushed his career down the toilet. He that's like one of those textbook examples
Yeah,
where they're like, if you want an actor, an example of a guy that flushed his career down the toilet, it is Lazenby, who
yeah,
got the role of a lifetime, and after one movie started telling the
and then
producers,
his agent told him to get out of it and do
"Right,
something
you have to
else.
get out of it, and you're the boss. You tell them what to do." It's like, dude, you had no career 5 minutes ago. You're
Oh,
James Bond.
yeah,
Milk that for whatever it's worth. Do 5 movies.
yeah,
I really rare in entertainment that you saw such an opportunity squandered as, Lazenby or whatever his name was as
yeah,
Bond. Really, really squandered it.
yeah,
And I guess,
yeah.
because we also said we would talk about it, maybe a little bit of a Sweet Baby Inc. update because there's
Oh,
so
boy.
much going on. I feel like every time I want to talk about that, just another thing happens. Over the weekend, it started where, their CEO lady that, what's her name? Claire, what's her name? I can't
Kim
remember.
Belair.
Kim Belair. I knew it was something like that. In any
Yeah.
case, she started saying, she's playing the victim now. Oh no, all
Mhm.
these YouTubers have blacklisted me. Oh, shut up. And then the other thing is that it turned out that Chris Kindred, that actually was the one that tweeted about Cabrutus Rambo and
Yep,
actually launched Gamergate with his stupid behavior.
yep.
That guy apparently was fired from Sweet Baby Inc. Also, another strange twist. But I'll
Yeah.
let you take it from here.
No, yeah, I mean, that's really the essence of it. It's, she was, presenting at a conference. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but she was, presenting, and she gets up there and almost immediately starts with "I'm a good person." Anybody who has to get up and tell you they're a good person, yeah, it's a little suspect. But she immediately started up with it, I'm a good person, whatever. And then started talking about what a victim she was and how nobody understands what their business does and how uh how they've just been so victimized and everyone gets all these nasty emails and they're
What a
all
bunch of
being
nonsense.
mistreated and whatever, but we've done so much great work for all our customers. By the way, customers who don't want their names on our website anymore because they're also getting backlash from having done business with us. So we're going to completely change our website and not include any of our previous work or the the other companies that we have contracts with because we know that it's going to draw more, more heat from people if we share that kind of stuff. So now they're going to do all of this even more in the dark, right? But yeah, so she makes all these silly comments. She goes out and she calls Elon Musk. Um, what did she call him? She calls Elon Musk a name. Because he had retweeted something about their company
Did
and
she call him a buffoon? I'm trying to remember
buffoon.
what she
That's
called him.
that's what it was. Yeah, called him a buffoon.
Or something like
Um,
that. It's like, lady, are you living on this planet? What are you even
yeah.
talking about? Like, this
Um,
guy has built all these. You can say you don't agree with him. You can say
yeah,
that you don't like him. These are all things that obviously you can do. But to say that he's like a dum dum, I don't know. That's really a bit of a stretch here. He's the richest man in the world, and he sits down and, like, starts all these companies that are actually doing things. To say that he's stupid and, like, as if he doesn't have a brain is really a very strange take.
yeah. It was bizarre. Trying to frame, everything they've done has been virtuous, and everyone's treating us so badly, and everything. It was just such a strange way to approach things again, and then yeah, framing Elon Musk as a buffoon and whatever. Yeah, other people have tried that. Other people have tried, I'm not going to say he's the most brilliant person in the world. I'm sure he's made mistakes. He's probably made a lot of them, but he's also been enormously successful in a bunch of the different ventures that he had. If those weren't because of him, because of his own, you know, brilliance or insight or intelligence, whatever, at the very least, he's getting the right people in the right jobs to build these businesses and make them successful.
I
Right.
mean,
A-
I think with the results that he's managed to put together, even if let's say he saw other people's ideas and said, "Oh, I'm going to market it better," I can't say that he's stupid. That just doesn't work for me.
No, no, yeah, no, he's
She could have said, "I hate him. He's an evil person." I would have said, "Okay, well, that's how
yeah,
she feels about him."
yeah.
Stupid is not
No,
exactly the category I would put him in.
he's just a buffoon. He's a clown. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Well. Yeah. So. Yeah. There's some very odd remarks from her there, and then they've wiped their website. They've completely relaunched their website now, so that it doesn't have any of the references to the projects and stuff like it used to, the different partner companies and so on. And then we also got the news that Chris Kindred, who was the one who initially basically started this whole mess by going out there and attempting to get Cabrutus Rambo and his recommender tool on Steam shut down and get his account banned. Uh, that was what started this whole mess, right? And it brought a ton of attention to that recommender on Steam, brought a ton of attention to the industry as a whole and where it's been going and the arguments being made by people like Cabrutus and others. Really just launched this into the stratosphere, all because of Chris Kindred trying to bully someone who had opinions that they didn't like, right?
Hard to believe how one person caused such a disaster. And the weird thing is, how long did it take before they fired him? I wonder how long he still worked there until they fired him.
Who knows? All we know now is that there were some rumors that were coming out saying that Chris Kindred was no longer working with that company. I think it was our friend of the channel, master of the TDS, that broke that news.
Yes, it
Uh,
was Master of the TDS. Good work on his end as usual.
Yeah, had someone inside or connected to Sweet Baby Inc. that was kind of saying, "Hey, this happened," right? Don't know exactly when that happened, but it has been shown. People who have looked at Chris Kindred's LinkedIn account, it now does show uh, Sweet Baby Inc. as being a former employer, I guess, or there's somewhere else where it showed that as being a former employer. So, yeah, it's fascinating. You would you would have thought they would have want to cut ties, and perhaps maybe they did want to cut ties with Chris Kindred
Sometimes
a
it's a
long time
double-edged sword
ago.
because if they would have fired him on the spot, it would have been acknowledging this whole nonsense narrative that these other people are peddling. Maybe it wasn't worth it for them to fire them immediately. I really don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently there was some insiders, some people inside the business that were, if you can even call them a business, I don't know what they are, but inside Sweet Baby Inc. that was saying that apparently not only was Chris Kindred causing trouble outside the company, uh, you know, like with the business with Cabrutus, but was also a bit of a troublemaker inside the company. I could believe that, right? And so potentially maybe they have been trying to find a way to part ways for some time now. But yeah, that was another, shocking surprise. I figured they would never you know force someone out like that, but because they're so nice, oh, we can't have people that are out of a job, right? I think we were laughing about that last week about, people, oh, you shouldn't be celebrating people losing their jobs. When a game does badly and a studio shuts down or something. Well, sometimes they deserve it. Right? Sometimes people deserve to lose their jobs. Their businesses deserve to be shut down when they fail, or when they're not delivering on what they're supposed to be doing for that business. So yes, we had that news. I'm trying to think of some other things that came out there. So there was Sweet Baby was in the news quite a bit.
And then
Um,
you had that Namco something.
yes, Bandai Namco, who um, they have they have quite a few different properties, a lot of Japanese anime properties that they manage, that they have the license for producing games, both for smartphones and consoles and online stuff. But apparently, they've been struggling. They're one that was reported earlier this year as having added some DEI departments to their businesses. So interesting. But they have had to cut multiple different games because they're having to write off a huge amount of money. I believe there's going to be some layoffs and other things that are going to be involved. Uh, let's see, video game publisher Bandai Namco Holdings is cutting its workforce. Yeah, so there's going to be some people that are going to be leaving. Part of it is canceling titles just because the demand for those titles had dried up. There were a number of titles that we're working on for things like Naruto, One Piece, that were not performing the way that they had hoped, or recent games did not perform the way that they hoped. And so, yeah, they're having to cut back a lot to make sure that they can continue to deliver on some of the titles that are actually making money. I think, let's see, I'm trying to remember if there recently was a title of theirs that was particularly successful, but I'm not really coming up with anything. Let's see. I suppose. Oh, they published some of the Dragon Ball games. There's recently been a newer one. I think it's Dragon Balls. It's Sparking Zero, I think might be the name of it. That's actually been doing really well in early, pre-release on Steam. So that's one that might be performing well for them. But it sounds like some of their other titles were becoming more of a drag, and so they were having to cut back on that. And
Well,
yeah,
this seems like real trouble to me.
I think a lot of video game publishers, a lot of creators are struggling. I think there's been a number of different pressures. Part of it has just been economic pressures. Let's admit it. I mean, it's a pastime that a lot of people enjoy, but it's a pastime that when there's economic trouble, people can very easily, leave that behind, right? It can be a fairly expensive hobby to be involved in. And so, there's people just not able to afford it. There's been different gaming trends that have been, changing over time. People are more interested in some titles than others. They're replaying. They're spending a lot of time with things like Fortnite rather than buying other, you know, titles for the PlayStation 5 or on Steam or whatever, buying multiple titles a year. A lot of them are investing their time and their money in uh frankly more affordable games, right? They're not buying 5, 6, $70 titles a year, or even a dozen of those a year. They're not spending a lot of money on that, and so I think that's been hurting a lot of publishers. I also I genuinely think that a lot of games have been performing poorly because of some of the stuff that we were talking about before, some of the stuff that Cabrutus Rambo was bringing to attention uh, when he created that recommender on Steam and now has the DEI detected website.
He still has the
There's
Steam though, too, right?
He does. Yeah, they still have the Steam recommender, and he also has the DEI
Good for
detected
him.
website, um, where they, are basically just calling attention to, hey, this game has been altered, or this game has been changed, or these values, these things have been, pushed into this game, and so maybe you don't want to buy it. If you're not into that kind of thing, then you don't buy this game, right? And I think that's really hit a lot of the developers in the industry. I think it's been dragging down. I mean, we've seen, really the big story has been Ubisoft watching their just utter collapse as a business.
Crazy, yeah.
There was a big story about them today. Did you see that one, Price?
No, I didn't. You can share if you want. I don't
Well,
know
let's
where
see
it
if
is.
I can find it. Essentially, a bunch of their workers, they went on strike. A bunch of their people in the business went on strike because they are starting a back to work, back to the office policy. They're getting rid of the work from home policies that they've had since COVID. And if you talk to people, a lot of the time when this type of move is taken by a business, it is not necessarily that they're saying, oh, we don't trust our workers that are working from home anymore. Uh, Work from home is a tricky subject because some people can be very, very productive in that environment, while others tend to abuse it, right? And so it's real hard to form these policies in a way that make sure you're targeting the right people and allowing them to work from home because they're being productive there versus the people that are abusing it. But a lot of businesses will do these back to work policies now, shutting down the work from home because they know that if they do it, they can get people to quit. And if they get people to quit, they don't have to pay them any kind of severance. They don't have to worry about buying out contracts or anything like that they might have. They can get people to simply walk away. And if it's really fascinating, though. I mean, we're talking about workers in a business that is on a knife's edge. It could literally collapse tomorrow, going on strike. That is like the stupidest possible time to choose to go on a strike.
Sounds dumb.
It's really laughable. But
Did you
yeah, they're
see?
going on strike because of this change in the work from home policies, saying it's not fair, changing these policies, whatever. But at the same time, Ubisoft's got these huge offices that are almost empty. They're paying a lot of money for those, and obviously they're in a world of hurt right now financially after the massive failure of Star Wars Outlaws, and then what is very likely to be a second huge failure with the next Assassin's Creed game. So, it's a very interesting story going on with Ubisoft. I'm fascinated to see where this goes. There's been all kinds of different rumors that have been coming out as to exactly what's happening there. Uh, there's been some news potentially that some of the uh, higher ups in the business basically had a what we would sometimes call a uh, come to Jesus meeting with their employees, basically saying, "Get your asses busy on this game, fix this game, or you're all going to be out of a job." And the rumors coming out that now potentially this very difficult, frustrating and problematic issue that they've had with their next Assassin's Creed title, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and all the controversy around having a black protagonist in Japan ancient Japan, you know, not modern Japan, but ancient Japan, where there's just one black guy there who historically there's scant evidence as to exactly who he was or what his position may have been with the Japanese court at the time. But to decide to focus their game on that character, regardless of the fact that now you are going to have a black man running around slaughtering Japanese people.
That is rather strange.
That they were just completely unaware of this being potentially a problem. But now there's a lot of rumors now that potentially they may be trying to change the game in some way to replace that protagonist, to give Yasuke a smaller role in the game and then refocus it on a Japanese
If
protagonist.
they're smart, they remove Yasuke altogether and never mention him again.
I mean, then of course, you've got the risk of having everyone coming in and telling them they're racists for taking out this character and whatever. Who knows? I think this continues to be an absolutely fascinating story. I have no idea where it's going to go, but
yeah, and
please, I want to keep
you saw this Stanley Kubrick thing?
Stanley Kubrick. No,
Did
I
I
don't think I
share
did.
it? His daughter was like saying that I guess Donald Trump sometimes uses songs or clips or whatever for his campaigns, and people thought that he'd get annoyed, that the estate of Stanley Kubrick would get annoyed because I guess in a commercial Trump used something from there, and
Oh goodness.
his daughters said no, his father, their father would have approved of that.
Huh.
And then she goes on and she's like saying all this stuff that was kind of like, I don't know. Like there's a lot, like as if there's a lot of theories and the things out there and she believes a lot of them, but just kind of strange to see.
Huh. Oh, you keep cutting out. Are you losing me or am I losing you?
No, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, no, I wasn't losing you. I was just giving you some breathing space so that you could comment if you wanted.
Oh no, it was breaking up on my end. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
now it's all good. And again, I want to thank for the really great crowd on Rumble that's listening to us. And
yeah.
again, I know you may not all have accounts, but I highly recommend that you start an account on Rumble. It's a great platform. And if you're watching this video and you're unsure what to do, you can always like and subscribe and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So in any case,
like, subscribe, show up here and chat with us. And
yeah, we love doing this thing
share
where we
your
hang out
thoughts.
with you guys twice a week. It's really fun for us. And the fact that there's people that we see regularly here and we interact with you guys, it also means a lot to us. It makes whatever we do a lot funner. And we're happy to be here. I guess at this point, we're getting towards the end of our broadcast. I could just go and look at some people that said hi to us, as I do sometimes. Professor?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's try to go quickly. Joshua Calkins, Walter Tomaszewski. Sounds like somebody is from Poland. Mur Rockstraw, Eraserhead, The Dead Man, Jamalama, Rachel Molgier. I like Rachel. The Dead Man, Peter, Tim Hayes, Eraserhead 1. I always hope. Sadu New One. Hey. If I forgot somebody, I'm sorry. Dovaklin, hey. John Malama, I said. Phantomunk. Tim Hayes, I said. Did I miss anybody? Met Fury. Professor, are you there?
I'm still here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Met Fury.
my browser on this end, everything's going weird. My chat's
Oh,
messed up
okay.
and
Well,
everything. So
we're wrapping up shows. The Dead Man,
yeah.
Phantom Monk, Rachel Moliere. We said, um, Tim Hayes, the Devastator, DJ Play Nice. Wee. That's what he usually writes, but not this time. Tim Hayes, the Dead Man, Eraserhead, Jonathan Conroy. I always tell you I like that name. That's the name of a very serious person.
Very serious.
Superior Nav, Robnut Skubla, Kivo 1961, Empress NM, Rockstar, I think I said, Lisa, Willem03, Caleb Levine, Sean Green, Lisa, Willem03, Phantom Uncle, we said, Wellum03, Keely Chow, Ravnar. Some of these comments are really good.
Yeah.
We often read them, but it's difficult when we're really going through the topics, and also to highlight every article sometimes is a bit difficult. But we do appreciate you all. Tom B is also cool.
Yeah. Tommy was here.
Stephen Mack. Tom B, Stephen Mack. Ravnar 777. This is good though. I like that there's a lot of
Yeah.
people. I'm
Yeah,
happy to sit
lots of
and
great
read
people
them.
here tonight. Yeah, so some contributing in the chat, others just listening in, watching
But it's
the
like I
program.
said, if
That's
you happen
awesome.
to like Rumble and you're just watching this just without a subscription, it's totally worth it to get a free subscription.
Yeah.
You're helping creators that way. And if you want to follow this channel, that certainly would help. It's always
Yeah,
good to have
create your
more
account,
people hanging out
follow,
with
and
us and watching.
yeah.
Now, we don't take the people that are here for granted. We're no Bud Light, but I'm just saying that always, more people joining our wonderful group of people, making it a little bigger. There's obviously nothing wrong with that. And then Devoclin, Marla Sharondoff, of course. Midnight's Edge After Dark. I think we're pretty close to the end at this point. Joshua Calkins, I said. Tim Hayes, Stephen Mack, Joshua Calkins. Yeah, I think we went over everybody.
Yep.
And I guess before we go, Professor, is there anything that you wanted to plug or talk about?
Oh, no, not in particular. Just glad to be here. Have a great time. Always enjoy hanging out with you on the Night Owl here. Sad we didn't get joined by Sean tonight, but he's a busy dude. So
He works till late,
yeah.
so we're always
Yeah,
happy
he
when
does.
we can have him here.
Yeah.
The Dad Abide says, is it best to watch on Rumble? First of all, it's always good to watch on Rumble. Rumble is a place that I've had streams before on other platforms where suddenly I'm in the middle or they suddenly disappear or strange things happen for different reasons. I would say that with Rumble, I'm always very calm in the sense that I feel like I've built something here that I really like. And yeah, I like Rumble. I like this platform, so always good to hang out here. If you're only on YouTube and you don't feel like going to Rumble, that there is an option that you could watch it on YouTube. But Rumble's our home base when it comes to these live streams.
Yep. Yep. And it's a great platform, great for free speech. Great to have an alternative to to some of the other platforms out there that may tend to be a little bit more restrictive of what they allow and what they support and as far as free speech goes. So yeah, Rumble's a good platform. So yeah, if you're out there on Rumble and yeah, you want to create an account and follow Price here and get notifications for when we go live and when he's sharing other videos and stuff too, that would be awesome.
By the way, just a final thing on our way out, I wanted to show that I was really happy. Chris Pavlovsky, the CEO of Rumble, he recently, I've seen some interesting messages from him, tweets from him. Today wrote, when no one else had balls, Rumble stood firmly against Cove's censorship. Rumble helped give a voice to a real Donald Trump, while every social media site opted to censor him. These are the two greatest personal accomplishments of my life. I love Rumble and what we stand for. And yeah, I actually agree. I think that there's certain things that are very important to Rumble, and they stand behind them. And I like their general attitude and approach to things. That's my opinion. So yes, I do recommend it. Aside from that, I think that we look like we're ready to go. I think.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, everybody. Again, like, subscribe, follow, share, do whatever you need to do. Thank you. You guys are great, and we're gonna head out. Bye.
Good night, everyone.